Have you ever been amazed by a musician's ability to just pick up a song by ear? A lot of people seem to think that there's this magical process, or people are born with these magical ears that kind of enable them to do this skill, where you just figure out what's going on by using your ear. The good news is that this is actually a skill that anyone can learn. Yes, it takes some time. Yes, it takes some practice. Yes, it might be frustrating at times, but in today's video, I'm going to break down the process that I go through every time I learn a song by ear for either a student or even just my own enjoyment. Again, there's no magic here. There's just a little process that we follow, and like anything, you get better at it over time. So without further ado, here's how I would break down learning songs by ear and how you can start implementing this skill and practicing the skill in your daily music practice. So for today's video, I'm going to use just a simple chord progression. YouTube has very, very strict copyright policies, so I can't use the actual song, but thankfully I have a wonderful little looper pedal, and I've crafted a poor man's version of Chappell Roan's big song from last year, Good Luck Babe, and we're gonna look at this. So the first kind of tip that I have, and the first thing that I see a lot of students miss, is they try to kind of take the whole thing in at once. And what I would recommend is when you are looking to learn a song, you want to try and isolate out the bass notes, or it could be the root notes. In a lot of cases in pop and rock, the lowest note of the chord will be the root note, but it could also be an inversion. So there is a chance that it's not it. But anyways, here's what my loop sounds like. So again, when I'm listening to that, I'm trying to hear what the lowest note of the chords are. I'm trying to hear what the bass is doing. If there's a bass on the track, if there isn't the lowest note of the guitar or the lowest note of the piano. Because when you try to take in the whole picture at once, it's often going to be overwhelming, especially if you're doing this, for the first time, or you're just starting to do this. So the trick is trying to isolate these small little bits so that you can actually kind of make some progress and figure out what the heck is going on. So when I'm doing this, I'm just going to scan one more time for the lowest note. And some people think that they should do it without the guitar. I'm a big fan of using the guitar to help you find these notes. So here, let's listen to this again and see if we can listen to these bass notes. If you have a guitar or a piano nearby, see if you can follow along with me. So I'm hearing that there's four notes, or there's four kind of chord changes in this little loop. And again, when I listen back to it, I'm just going to try and match them with my guitar. So let's see. There it is. Okay. And then I get that. So the trick here, now that I've found some bass notes, I'm pretty confident, and obviously I do know what this chord progression is, but I'm trying to replicate the process for you. But so I'm hearing a big G, a big A, a big D, and a big B. There are some other notes happening in this bass line. But those are my big ones. Now, here's where this process kind of goes to the next level. And that's going to be, now that I have this, again, I think a lot of people think we just have magical ears, but what this is really it's a process of slowly learning patterns. It's kind of like anything. You get better at recognizing patterns within anything that you do. And in this, I hear G, A, D, and B minor. So here I'm going to apply some of my knowledge of theory, and I'm going to think about where some of these chords might be found. So in the key of G major, I would have all of these notes. I would have G would be a major chord, A would be a minor chord, D would be a major chord, and B minor would be the 3 chord. So let's try out those chords. So that's wrong. D major's right, and then B minor is right. So what I found there is, I used my knowledge of theory to go, okay, where are the chords in G major? And if you don't know theory, I'm going to break down what you can do after that in just a minute. But going through there, that A minor chord was wrong, the other 3 were right. So that means that I'm pretty close to figuring this out by ear. And again, I just used my ear to find the lowest note and then filled it in with some of my knowledge of theory. So if that A minor is wrong, what I want to do is I want to look for a different key that contains all of these notes and these chords and maybe has an A major. And if I scan my brain really quick, I find that this could be a 4, G could be 4, A could be 5, and D could be 1. So if we were in the key of D major, this chord progression could be 4, 5, 1, 6. Now let's listen to that. There it is. It's a major. So now I know what those 3 chords were. And I figured this out relatively quickly, just again by isolating the bass note and then applying some of my theory knowledge. A lot of people think that when we learn music by ear, people have magical ears or they have perfect pitch. I do not have perfect pitch. I have what's called relative pitch, which is where if you tell me, I could hear that this chord progression was a 4-5-1-6, but I would need you to tell me what one of the chords was for me to be able to fill in the rest of my knowledge. So I can hear how it works, but I can't tell you exactly the pitch just by using my ears, right? And so in doing that, I used a little bit of my theory knowledge, and I used this strategy of, again, I'm focusing on the bass note so that I can kind of figure out and get some ideas rather than trying to take in this whole thing and getting completely overwhelmed. So when you do this process, if you do not have a solid grasp of theory, which is fine, you can build a grasp of theory. The thing that I would try is, I always call this the major or minor test. So technically in major keys, there are diminished chords available, but it's pretty rare that, pop and rock songs make use of those chords. So when I'm listening to this stuff, I might take this and go, okay, if you found that you have G, A, D, and B minor, now it's just a process of elimination where you try those chords over it. So if you hear G major, you try, okay, yeah, but maybe I tried D minor. I hear that that's wrong, but I hear that B minor's right. So then you just change what it is. Again, if it doesn't work major, try the same chord but minor and see if that works. If you try a minor chord and it doesn't work, like there I played D minor over a D major chord, it sounded pretty crunchy, and I was able to go, okay, that's not the chord. And so this process of elimination, again, think about it like it's a process of elimination rather than like I need to get these magical things. And then the other kind of one caveat I'll add in is sometimes you might hear something that isn't major or minor. It might be dominant, and that is a major triad with a flat 7 on it. It's commonly associated with the 5th of the key. That's where it would commonly be used. So if you hear that major works, but there's something a little bit more going on, that's usually a good sign that it's going to actually be a dominant chord. So by going through this process of elimination and going through it, that's kind of the process to learn chord progressions by ear. You start with the bass note, then you try to fill in with either your theory knowledge or your chord knowledge or both, and you just kind of start going through it. And now here's the thing that I think a lot of students kind of go wrong with, which this is, I guess, a bonus tip, is I would say try to figure out like just one chord progression a day. I think a lot of my students kind of make the task of transcribing or learning music by ear a lot trickier than it needs to be, just because they set themselves these goals of like, well, if I can't learn the entire song, it's useless. And that's so not true. Think about it like you were kind of trying to get in shape or craft a workout plan. You're probably going to have much more success if you set reasonable, meaningful goals that build over time, rather than going, absolutely buck wild all out for 2 months at the start of January and then burning out, maybe getting injured and giving up on the thing. So I always tell my students, just spend 5 minutes a day trying to figure out, some chord progressions by ear, and it'll help you out a ton just because you're able to kind of go through and to pick out these little things. So when you go through, just pick, like, even if you just figure out a verse of a song, that's a win. Then the next day when you come, you can figure out the chorus. Then the next day you can figure out the bridge. But trying to find these manageable little ways to fit this into your musical practice is going to be a great way to kind of stretch your ears and also just improve every facet of your musicality, right? You're learning to hear chord progressions, you're learning to think about these things. And again, over time, you'll start to build up all of these patterns that you actually know and can recognize, and the process just becomes faster and faster. So anyways, I really hope you found this video useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out more than you could know. If you want to take a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to get in touch with me down in the description. I'd absolutely love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. If you're looking to support me in the free educational content that I post here, you can subscribe to my Patreon, which is also linked down in the description. All of my patrons get early access to videos as well as cool behind the scenes sneak peeks. It's stuff that I'm working on that I don't share, anywhere else. And if you're looking for a different way to support me, I do have links to my video courses and my ebook linked down in the description as well. It's a great way to get some more in-depth educational content from me than I can fit in these 10 to 15 minute YouTube videos. And last but not least, I have at least 2 new videos coming out every single week. So I hope I'll see you in the next one. And until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks.